Welcome, Rotarians and guests, to the Rotary Club of York, where our mission is to improve life in the city of York by connecting our club's diverse community leaders through fellowship, action, and service. I am your president, Wilda Ream, and as you know, we start off our meetings by reciting the four-way test. Please join me. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Today, our opening song, America, My Country, 'Tis of Thee, and the pledge will be led by past President Brian Tate, followed by the invocation by President-elect nominee Kelly Gibson and visitor introductions by Dan May.
Rotarians and guests, please join me. My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside, let freedom ring. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please prepare yourself for prayer in the manner to which you are accustomed. Art is our connection to the sacred. It makes the unseen visible. When I say the word God, the image that is in your mind was created by an artist to make the unknowable knowable, to bring us closer to a higher power. Sacred images, symbols, dances, hymns, and chants, these artist-made tools are what connect us to our religion and spiritually to one another. Michelangelo's David is a well-known artistic image known around the globe. Commissioned by the church for the Florence Cathedral in 1504, Michelangelo carved David from a single block of stone, saying his hands would be guided by God. Whirling dervishes are practitioners of Sufism, a mystical branch of Islam. They perform a sacred meditative dance called the Sema, in which they spin rapidly to hypnotic music to reach a state of religious ecstasy and achieve a spiritual union with the divine. The Navajo sand paintings, also called dry paintings, are called places where the gods come and go in the Navajo language. They are used in curing ceremonies in which the gods' help is requested for harvests and healing. Today, let us give thanks for our guest speaker, Jay Young, and the artists among us, whose work connects our spirits, blesses our world, and builds bridges across insurmountable divides. Let's also thank the creative hands that made the meal we share today in fellowship. All this we pray. Amen.
I am pleased to have the honor of introducing our guest for today's meeting. When I call your name, please stand and remain standing until President Wilda has welcomed you. We have one guest, visiting Rotarian C.U. Liu from the West Shore Club.
CU, welcome so much to our club. If what you see here today resonates with you, we'd love to have you consider becoming part of our Rotary family if you ever want to move south to York. Rotarians, please help me welcome our visitor. You may be seated. All right, you may be seated. Thank you. And now for our announcements this week. Fellow Rotarian Mark Woodbury is recovering from surgery at Apple Hill. And onto our committee meetings. The Rotary Club of York committee chairs will meet today at 1:30 after this meeting in the wine room, which is where our lunch buffet was. The Youth Enrichment Committee will meet on May 21st at 9 o'clock on Zoom. The Youth Exchange Committee will meet on the 21st at noon on Teams. And the Speedy Committee will meet on May 26th at noon at Prince Street Cafe. And now I invite Brian Tate, past president Brian Tate, back to the podium.
All right. As recommended by the nominating committee and approved by the board of directors, the following individuals have been nominated for officers to serve the Rotary Club of York for the 2026-2027 year. And if you're here, please stand. Doug Berman as president, Kelly Gibson as president-elect, BJ Fagley as financial vice president, and Cal Weary as president-elect nominee.
The membership has final approval. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Oh,
So
sorry.
that's you.
Today's the day. Congratulations, Doug, Kelly, BJ, and Cal. We look forward to your service in the upcoming year.
And as recommended by the nominating committee and approved by the board of directors, the following individuals have been nominated to serve a first 2-year term on the board of directors for the Rotary Club of York for the 2026 through 2028 Rotary years. They are Alyssa Barshinger. If you're here, please stand. Great. Nick Beck and Michael Hady. Further, as recommended by the nominating committee and approved by the board of directors, the following individual has been nominated to serve a second 2-year term on the board of directors for the Rotary Club of York for the 2026 through 2028 Rotary years, Eric Chase. These individuals will serve with the other current board members, and if you're here, also please stand. Elaine Bonneau, Teresa Gregory, Sean Kenny, and Joe Stein.
The membership has final approval. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. Congratulations, Alyssa, Nick, Michael, and Eric. And thanks. Sure. And thank you, past president Brian Tate, for your work and the nominating committee's work in selecting our leadership for the next several years. At this time, I invite Dave Shiverini to the podium for a membership engagement committee update.
Good afternoon. I had the pleasure last Thursday of attending the Rotary Biz Tour and networking event at the Shine Foundation, and I enjoyed it so much. I asked our membership engagement committee at our meeting on Monday if I could share my experience, and they agreed. When I heard the event was at the Shine Foundation, I was excited. I'd heard of it, but I really didn't know a whole lot about it. And needless to say, I was blown away. I mean, it starts kind of with the very inconspicuously located there, 2 East Market Street. I mean, not a lot of signage, but you go inside and it's just a beautiful facility inside. There's classrooms, there's a production studio, there's even an area for podcasting, which we were talking about. It just the whole mission of it is just providing music to students in need. And Peter Botros, who's the founder of it, was sharing stories of some of those students that go well beyond York County and some of their experiences. And Peter shared his own story, personal journey that from how he got to the Shine Foundation and got to York. So very exciting. He also treated us to a short recital, which was exceptional. And that's that was an excerpt from a concert that they're doing later this year at the Appel Center. So I would encourage you to, if you can, to make an effort to get there. Fellow Rotarian Bill Hartman even donated a keyboard, on the spot there, which was really well received, and it's going to go, directly to one of the students there. So it was just, I thought it was just something a lot more I got out of it than I was expecting. It was then followed by kind of a guided networking event, if you will, at Iron Horse, and I guess there was a room that was set up, and Rotarians got a chance for some fellowship and, like I said, some networking. So the next Biz Tour and networking event is Thursday, June 4th. So that's coming up, and that's actually at the Appel Center. It's over the lunch hour. So we've kind of shifted it. It usually is toward the end of the day. So we encourage you to make an effort to join us. And lastly, our next Rotary Means Business is on July 30th at CGA Law Firm. And we know Frank Countess and his team will put on a memorable event. Just for those, I had been a Rotary Club of York member and had left for a number of years. I got back into it because fellow Rotarian Bill Hunter invited me to a Rotary Means Business event last year, and that encouraged me to get back into this club. So I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. I enjoy being on the Membership Engagement Committee, and we're always looking for new members, and hope to see you very soon at some of those. So thank you.
Thank you, Dave, and thank you to the Membership Engagement Committee for continuing to provide meaningful opportunities outside of our weekly meetings. It certainly was a fun evening, and I have to say, we met this morning. The presidents of the York clubs get together every other month, and today was my final meeting. Doug, looking at you. Anyway, sorry. So we had our meeting this morning, and we were talking about, they were promoting the Rotary Means Business and encouraging the other clubs to attend. And I just took a moment to say how proud we should be of our club and in York clubs that we put on the best Rotary Means Business in our district last year. And so I have high expectations for our July 30th event as well. So I hope that you will register, bring a guest to learn more about Rotary, maybe re-engage some former Rotarians as well. So with that, I will invite Sarah White, Chair of the Communications Committee, to the podium.
Hi, guys. This is my opportunity to remind you all of how we communicate within our club. Firstly, I want to remind all of you, if you haven't downloaded the Club Runner app on your phone, it's gotten better and better. And honestly, it alleviates the need to ever really go to the website in the first place, because pretty much everything is in that app. One of the things that I wanted to talk to you a little bit about is where to actually sign up for events. If you could pull up the website. But again, if you have the app, you don't even have to go to the website. You can do it right from your phone. And there is a calendar of events on your phone, on the app. If we go here, scroll down to the, yep. There's a calendar to the right here on the home page, landing page. So most of you hopefully are familiar with this website a little bit, and you've seen this, but if you click into any of these days, like June 4th, you will get a link. It'll open up. You have to be logged into the Club Runner app or Club Runner portal, and you will be able to sign up for that event. If you go to the top of this page, back to the resources tab, just a reminder that there are a lot of quick and easy links here for information that you might need, such as a member directory, which is also in the Club Runner app. There is a form here to nominate new members. So if you are interested or have a friend who wants to maybe join us, that would be a good place to go. If you have something that you think is noteworthy to share beyond just our club, then there is a social media submission form here as well, where you can submit any information about what's going on in your committee, what have you. Also, just a reminder, if you haven't joined our Facebook group, we do have a members only Facebook group, and we invite you to share as much as possible to that group. We've had a small trend of Rotarians in the wilds because many of us see each other at various events. I love it. Keep it going. And that's all I've got for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you to your committee for helping to elevate Rotary in the community. And now Mike Black will introduce our speaker for today.
Thank you, President Wilda. It's my pleasure to introduce Jay Young of the Dillsburg Arts Council today. Met Jay a few months ago as a grant panelist for the Impact Fund at the Cultural Alliance, and the Arts Council was one of my site visits. And Jay and I just kind of hit it off instantly, and was very intrigued about his story about the church, the historic church they're housed in, the surrounding area there in Dillsburg, Dillsburg's role in the Battle of Gettysburg, and I thought we need to get this guy to Rotary. So here we are. Jay attended Northern York County High School, going to Mansfield for his BA degree, Shippensburg for his MA, and Western Maryland for his master's in administration. After teaching in the Northern York School District for 15 years, Jay went to the private sector and worked for various companies, using his teaching background as a foundation for his services. These positions included the Wolf Organization and assisting his son in setting up his company, Exhibit Studios. During this time, Jay became very involved in Dillsburg, giving back to the community he grew up in, and served as president of the Music Boosters, the Kiwanis Club, Dillsburg Business Association, and the Lions Club. Jay also wrote over $350,000 worth of grants for the town for revitalization projects, which included making the square into a themed park area, colonial-style town streetlights, and putting the electric under the sidewalks for Farmers Fair. Currently, Jay is concentrating on the preservation of Historic Monaghan Church and preserving the history of Dillsburg and the Northern York County area. With history no longer being discussed a lot in schools, Jay feels it imperative that we preserve it and share it with our children. And they run programs with the schools and community to do so. One such program is the Living History Program, in which children from the Dillsburg Elementary School research individuals buried in the historic Monaghan Cemetery, which dates back to the early 1700s. And then, dressed like that person, they stand by their grave and tell their story of their life in Dillsburg. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Jay Young.
I'm not used to standing in back of a, yes. As having been a teacher, you never were a stationary target. So I wander a lot. So if I wander away, I'll try to remember to speak loudly enough so you can hear me. What I want to share with you today is this is our 250th anniversary of our nation. And whether you realize it or not, York was fundamental in that, especially York County. And the children in the 4th grade at Dillsburg and I have put on the Living History program over the last 4 years. What has amazed me is that they really get excited learning about our history. And as adults, we sell them short because we say, kids don't care anymore. Don't you dare believe that. They care. You just have to give them a chance. Explain to them. Share with them. We are the present. They are the future. And whether we want to believe it or not, the future is bright. they'll let you know that. My grandkids always tell me that. I pat them on the head and say, thank you. With that, I want to talk about the Scotch Irish. By the way, it's the Scots Irish. I was informed years ago, Scotch is a drink. I thought that was an oxymoron because that's what they did. They all had distilleries in their backyard. It's like, oh, well. Anyhow, the Scotch Irish in Pennsylvania is our main topic, and mainly Northern York County. Years ago, King James was their friend, and they lived in Scotland. During that time, they were very prosperous. They were hard workers. They were very successful. That's okay up to a point with the king. When you start to become more successful and more popular than he is, not so much. So what did he do? He had a problem with Ireland. He called them the lazy Irish, sorry. And he sent them to Ireland to take care of the Irish. The Irish also had a way of irritating the king. So the Scots went to Ireland, and therein lies another problem. They were hard workers. They became more successful than the king. This passed along to King Charles in his reign. So what did he do? He sent them back to Scotland. And therein lies the problem. Those that had 100 acres ended up with 10. And then the famines hit. They had nothing. Nothing. Just think about what they went through. There were people in the area talking about this new world. And they said, you need to go there. You will find what you need. You will find your freedom. They knew full well they were not going to find it in their homeland of Scotland. They sailed on a ship called the Eagle. And they landed in a place called Plymouth. All they wanted was love and friendship. They had made the hardest decision in their lives. They left all the older Scots in Scotland. They couldn't make the trip. They left their families in search of a dream. And what did the Puritans say? No Scotch Irish allowed. They considered them dirty and dumb. So they sailed to New York. Same signs. They sailed up to Delaware and met a man by the name of William Penn. He was a Quaker. He accepted everyone. And as luck would have it, William Penn was friends of a man by the name of Matthew Dill. William Penn was dividing the lands that he had been given. And he had this parcel called York County. Who should be the caretakers? Two groups were in the search for land, the Germans and the Scotch Irish. The Germans wanted the best farmland. They got southern York County. The Scotch Irish, they wanted freedom. Pretty simple, wasn't it? They wanted freedom. This country, unbeknownst to us, didn't realize that they were what we had waited for. Not that the other denominations weren't important, but the Scotch Irish were bringing something that the others didn't have, at least not to the degree that they did. And the York County Hills called them. It reminded them of home. They built with what they had, which was mainly log. Weren't any bricks. There were some stones in northern York County, so some of the older buildings you'll find were made of stone. But they built mainly out of the wood and the logs that were in the area. Now, this is a picture of a Scotch-Irish clan, friendly group. I would have definitely wanted them as my friend, no matter where I went. Boy, are they great. You know, we see how we welcome those with open arms. It appears they did it with something else. But that was them. They were rough and tumble. They always said a good Scotch-Irish wedding lasted for at least a day and into the night and had at least one fight. And by the next morning, all was forgotten. There were 4 champions of settling our nation, most of which came from Pennsylvania. The Puritans brought the laws. The Germans, they brought the wheat. They were the farmers. The Quakers, they brought fellowship. The Scotch-Irish brought broad arms and strong backs. They were the workers. Think of that. Those 4 built this nation. They all believed in the same thing. They believed in God. They were the ones that pushed to have "In God We Trust" on our money. They were the ones that pushed for "In God We Trust" in building this nation. That's important. Very, very important. They believed in God and in providence. I'm not going to tell you what providence means, but I would ask that you look it up. Then you'll understand. They believed in providence. I thought I knew what that meant. I did not. American patriots, those were the Scotch-Irishmen. They had lost everything because of the king and kings of England and Cromwell. They were not going to give it up. When the shots rang out in Concord, the Scotch-Irish were there first. Even from Dillsburg, they went to that battle. They were there first. In this boat, believe it or not, is a man from Dillsburg, Thomas Black. We'll talk more about Thomas as we go along. He was a colonel. He served with Washington for 5 years. The 4th graders found this for me. George Washington said, "If I have to fight these British, let me fight them with the Scotch-Irish by my side." They didn't back down. They didn't run. They would fight to the bitter end. 6 of them signed the Declaration of Independence or were involved in that document. That's significant. From Northern York County. Over 700 men in the Northern York County School District fought in the Revolutionary War and are buried either in small church cemeteries or family plots in that area. 700, over 700 men just in that area. Think how many in York County were involved. That's a lot. We have so much to be thankful for. We have so much to be proud of as a county. They were instrumental in founding of this nation. They say the Scotch-Irish had more, the group of people in this country, more of them fought for freedom than any others. But think of what they went through. In Monaghan Cemetery, we marked the graves and celebrate. This year, the children and I are celebrating the 10 Revolutionary War veterans that are buried in that specific cemetery, which dates back to the early 1700s. and the markers there for the Revolutionary War. Something significant is the older stones are lying flat. I thought they fell over. So what do you think I was going to do? Stand them back up again. That would have been a huge mistake. The Scotch-Irish believed that when you went to meet your maker on the final day of judgment, you kneel before your God. You didn't stand before him. And all the stones were laid flat. Humbles you, doesn't it? It makes you think of their values. All the stones are laid flat. These are the gentlemen who are buried there. There's two others that are not listed on here. They were with the Warrington Meeting House. And for those of you who know about the Warrington Meeting House, that means that they were Quakers. It was against their religion to be in a war. They were kicked out of the church. They're buried in unmarked graves in the old historic Monaghan Cemetery. And we will honor them. I also have the students from Wellsville who are honoring the Quakers that fought in the war and were kicked out of the church. Only one was allowed to be a member, and he provided supplies to the Revolutionary War armies. He didn't fight. Thomas Black, he went in as a private, came out as a colonel, and he served with Washington for 5 years. I won't tell you about the rest. We will broadcast on the 31st when the children do the Living History program and stand by the stones and come alive and tell you the story of their life in Dillsburg. And, but I'll tell you about Thomas. 3 years ago, one of the children found out that Thomas had fought with Washington. And it was one of those, yeah, right. And then he found proof, but we couldn't figure out why. How could a man from Dillsburg be that important that he would serve with Washington? What value? Did he command part of the forces? What did he do? When I found out, the old teacher in me came out, and I just had to laugh. To be very simple in the explanation of his ability and his gift, he had a big mouth. He could holler and shout orders down the line to communicate with the rest of the troops to tell them what Washington wanted them to do next. You think, that makes sense. He was with Washington when he crossed the Delaware at the Battle of Brandywine, or Battle of Trenton, and at Brandywine. That we know for sure. But it was his job to communicate the orders to the troops. I thought that was pretty neat. When he returned to Dillsburg, his job was he led the choirs in the church. How appropriate. His voice changed from those commanding destruction and war to those who praising the Lord. Exactly what the Scotch-Irish believed. Now, just a little bit about the church. The church they had services there in the 1730s. It was officially established in 1745. It was one of the 10 mission churches, you ready for this, of Cumberland County. Is Dillsburg in Cumberland County? The frontier had passed through Lancaster into Cumberland County, and they were expanding into that frontier then in northern York County. And that's how they became one of the mission churches of northern York County. They had a sister church then established in Petersburg as the frontier expanded. Anybody know where Petersburg is or was? York Springs. That surprised me too. Kids found that too. The original building was a log church. They called it a rampart church because they had a stockade built around the outside because the Native Americans weren't too happy with them just popping in and saying, hello, this land's ours. And so they'd harass them during worship services. So they always had someone stationed at the door with a gun to just sort of shoot it in the air and chase them away. It's ironic that that relationship changed, and the Native Americans realized that they and the Scotch Irish were sort of in the same boat, and they befriended each other. There are several Native Americans buried in that historic cemetery, and you can tell because they are piles of stones, not markers. Duffield, I always thought of, he had a bad hair day. He was originally from Chambersburg, ended up in the Carlisle Presbytery. He was quite a speaker. John Adams called him the parish priest, and he was the first paid minister at Monaghan. He had a voice that would raise the very spirit within the patriot, is what Washington said. And so Washington asked him to come to Philadelphia to be chaplain of the Continental Congress during the Revolutionary War. He was replacing a man who was a Tory. That was sort of ironic. And the congregation didn't want him to go. He was the first minister they had. But eventually Washington asked them to please think of their country and sent him to Philadelphia. He took over as minister of the Pine Street Church there. His picture was in Independence Hall because of what he did. And that was then removed because a president of the United States said that only president's pictures should be there. And now his picture is in Pine Street Church in Philadelphia, and he's buried under the floor of that church. By the way, there was a 50-pound warning bounty on him, on his life, dead or alive. And they said many times he'd be going out the back door as the British were coming in the front. The old church is the oldest Presbyterian church west of the Susquehanna River. And the reason that it was established before Dillsburg was established is the Scotch-Irish didn't believe in towns. They believed in clans. Clans were family. Clans came first. If you notice around this area, and especially northern New York County, you'll see a lot of small towns. Those were clans. Because usually where the real small towns are, you'll see there was a farmhouse and a barn. That was a clan. That was a Scotch-Irish family that founded that area. Up in our area, it'd be Coffeetown, Bragtown. Those were clans. They didn't believe in towns. Towns held no value. Family held all the value. And their church. They're gone now. Only their footprints are left. Can we forget them? Can we move on with our busy lives and not worry about what they did for us? Is it not important? Or do we need to take a moment, like the fourth grade students are, and reflect back upon a time where this nation was formed, where values and God and providence were the most important things? I'll end my presentation with what one of the fourth grade students said, because it struck me. My motto in life has always been, I just want to make a difference. That's all. And this young man was reenacting W.D. Bailey, who was a surgeon during the Civil War. We have 15 of those buried in the cemetery. And he was standing there and talking about his life as a surgeon and his growing up in Dillsburg. And at the end, he stood there at the adults who were watching, and he said, I have loved this town with all my heart and all my soul. And I have done everything possible to make it a better place for those families that come after me. And then he paused and he said, and what will you do? What will you do? Thank you. I believe there's a time for questions. Does anybody have any questions? Yes.
Visit. Where can we find information about the those buried in the cemetery?
If you look on our website, dillsburgerarts.com, as you page through, you will see we have listed all of the people who are buried in the cemetery. And we're researching. The Girl Scouts got together and took pictures of every stone, because those that are laying flat, they're going away, and there's no real way to save them. So they took pictures of every stone, and then we took all the records from the church and they put together the information on all those who are buried there. So we're now digging for more, but that'd be the best place to look for it.
I have one more, sorry. I know that the Articles of Confederation were founded upon the principles of the Presbyterian Church. And so I'm wondering what members from Monaghan were influential here in York when all of that was written and signed, to your knowledge.
To my knowledge, the families that were fundamental in the founding of the area were the Baileys. They came in the late 1600s from Scotland. The Baileys, the McHales, the Armstrongs, the Logans. Logans, by the way, who are from Dillsburg, were given 300 acres. It's called Logania. They were friends with Robert the Bruce. I don't know if you ever saw the movie Braveheart. If you didn't, look at some of the Northern York County settlers' history of their lives, because they were with Robert the Bruce. That's a hard movie to watch, but it realizes even more how much they felt freedom was so important. Other than that, I don't know specifically all those gentlemen who were involved in that. I always thought it's amazing. Think how strong the women were with those men. They went off to war. There were only 3 men left in Dillsburg area at the time of the Revolutionary War. 3. All the rest were the wives and the daughters that stayed, and the young sons. That's what had to make everything work. That to me is significant. Yes.
Thank you for your presentation. That was very interesting. They say that the Scots are very proud people. I know for a fact they say everything good in the world you can trace back to Scotland. I'm really curious, did they distill anything in Northern York County?
Yes. According to records that we have found, just about every clan had their own. And even into the time of the 30s with bootlegging, there were several bootlegging areas up in the Northern York County area that we still know were there. And in all honesty, there was one rural racetrack that started with them practicing for running their bootleg. Good Lord. But yeah, they were very much into that particular skill. And but the saying was, the Scotch Irish were always right. And if you didn't believe it, just ask them. And probably that group I showed in the picture would show up, and you're right.
I know you had referenced the church, some of the records found in the church, but what kind of historical documents and books have you used that have been really instrumental in highlighting some of this history as you've dedicated your research to this?
There was a gentleman by the name of Prowl who wrote a history of York County, and Gibson. Those were the 2 that are most significant. I also trace back to ministers in the church. One of them in particular was a minister there when I was small in the 40s, and his name was Bill Swain. And Bill was a stickler for history, and you better make sure you got it right or you had a problem, even though he was a minister. And I have his transcripts. And so we transposed those, and I put together a book on the history of the church, which basically is a history of Northern New York County, because when the church was built, there were only 4 houses in the area. And most of the land that Dillsburg's on now originally was given to the church. So that's where most of my research came from. And also Carlisle Presbytery had some information on that. And Donegal was the first Presbyterian presbytery in the Philadelphia area and spread through Lancaster County when it moved into Cumberland County.
When you were talking about William Penn divvying up York County, was there like a line of division where there was the Germans were below this and then the Scott Irish were above that?
Pretty much so. It was right around here, right around York. When you start going north of York into like Dover, that was Scotch Irish. Primarily it was from York south. They say in the documents that the Germans had the money, they had the dowries. And so they got the better farmland, but it didn't make any difference to the Scotch Irish. You could have given them a quarry and somehow they'd have found something to grow in it. They really just wanted freedom.
Thank you so much, Jay, for that fascinating look into the history of Dillsburg and the incredible legacy preserved through the work of the Dillsburg Arts and Revitalization Council. Your work demonstrates the important role that preservation plays not only in protecting the past, but in strengthening community identity, inspiring civic pride, and creating connection between generations. So thank you for your leadership and your commitment to ensuring that these stories will be continued to be told for years to come. As you know, our speaker signs a book plate to be put up in a book that will be donated to the YMCA of the Roses York Early Child Care Center, along with a bookmark made by students at Creative York. This week's is The Octopus Escapes. Next week, we'll hear from Peter Mule, the senior project leader of Susquehanna National Heritage Area, to learn about the planning for the Susquehanna Discovery Center in Heritage Park, a world-class visitor destination celebrating the nationally important stories of York and Lancaster counties. Learn about the stories of this historic site, the historic Mifflin House, the vision for the project, and the impact it will have on life and tourism in the Susquehanna River region for generations to come. With that, this meeting is adjourned. We'll see you next week.